The Supreme Court just dropped three big rulings on the same day, the last day of their term. By tonight, your three will be screaming about two of them: birthright, citizenship, transgender athletes. Those are the ones everybody will fight about. Those are the ones that will be popular on social media. But there was a third ruling today, almost nobody's talking about. No viral clips, no president posting in all caps, and this one will quietly change this country more than the other two combined. So let's do all three, fast on the first two, then let's slow it way down and talk about the one that we're not supposed to notice. Ruling one, birthright citizenship. First one, this is a straightforward win if you believe in the Constitution. The court struck down the president's executive order trying to end birthright citizenship. The 14th Amendment stands, just to be clear. If you're born in American soil, you're an American. This was 1-6-3. The line that matters comes from Chief Roberts, a conservative he called citizenship the right to have rights. Said the framers extended that promise to every freeborn person in this land, and then we keep that promise today. Our president tried to redefine the courts as an American with a stroke of a pen, and even a conservative court said no. You can be tough on immigration and still believe in the right written in the Constitution. It can't be erased by an executive order. Today that held. It's good. Moving on. The second ruling I'm going to be honest about, because this one deserves more than a hot take. The court ruled the states can ban transgender girls from playing on girls' teams in sports. Justice Kavanaugh wrote, here's where I land, and I'm going to say two things some people think are not allowed to say at the same time. One, transgendered people deserve to be left alone and to live their lives. No issue at all. Everybody's a person. They should be allowed to be free. The specific question we have to have a conversation about is fairness in girls' sports. This is a complicated issue, but I don't believe it should be one. As a person who has played a sport that women have played on many of the teams that I've played for, I think if you have the ability as a female to play in the male sport at any level is an accomplishment that is worth being remembered in sports lore for history. The other way is the issue that most people talk about. I myself have had girls' teammates, as I've said, but that doesn't allow me to play on girls' sports. And I think that the issue is people talk about what is a girl and what is a woman. I have no interest in getting into any of these conversations. I can only speak as an athlete. And as an athlete, I would not think it would be fair if I would play a female sport. This is going to be probably the one most talked about and the loudest. In the room of society, this issue will affect a small minority, and a louder minority will speak about it. It is a very good divisive issue, one that doesn't have a lot of conversation in the kitchen of homes. People are talking about other things that more directly affect them, and to the people it doesn't affect, these are major conversations. But as a divisive issue on the internet and in our times, it's a great one. If you feel a certain way, it gets you emotional. The emotions lead to people talking about it, anger one way or the other. I think we just have to ask ourselves about what's fair. And females, people, and so many female athletes fought for the right to just play their own sport. Title IX exists for a reason, and it affected people like myself. Eventually, got down to disabled sports and how far we had to come to get a seat at the table. So I think that this is an issue, I guess, state for state, person for person, but it's going to be an issue on fairness. However, with those two being the ones that are talked about the most, the one that we should be paying attention to is the third ruling of the day. The court handed down a third decision, and this one touches every person watching, whether you heard about it or not. Quick favor first, this is a brand new channel. We are out here trying to build something. We're trying to have a conversation, a non-BS conversation about the politics of the U.S. and the world at large. I'm Jared. I'm an ex-Paralympian, a world traveler, and somebody who has an obsession with history. And I would like to have a conversation with anybody who's willing to have a conversation with me. Ruling three, campaign finance. It's a case called National Republican Senatorial Committee versus the FEC. Here's what it is in plain English. For about 50 years, since the reforms that came out of Watergate, there has been a limit on how much money a political party can spend in direct coordination with its own candidate. Not a ban, a limit. They could work together, up the cap. Today, the court struck that cap down 6-3. Parties can now coordinate unlimited spending with their candidates. After watching what happened in the last election with the amount of money being spent, I assumed that you could put as much money into politics as you wanted. And a very select few people can then have the ear of whether it's a president, senator, congressman. I thought the guardrails had been taken away. I was wrong. Now the guardrails have been taken away. If you think there was too much money in politics before, you're about to see an explosion of money that nobody has ever seen. And because the other two issues are so polarizing and so divisive, I wonder if this wasn't put on the docket to sneak through, because that's what I would do. And if you're focusing on these two over here, then you're not focusing on the one that's going to affect you the most. So just to give you an easy example, right now there's a hard limit and you could give directly to a candidate, a few $1,000s. That limit exists to stop the simplest kind of corruption, bribery. You hand a giant check to a politician and now they owe you. As of today's ruling, a wealthy donor capped at a few $1,000s to a candidate can now give around $500,000 to the party instead. And the party, with no limit anymore, can spend that money in coordination with the exact candidate, the candidate that they want. This is far more dangerous than I think we understand. And as rules change or slightly get pulled back, the damage and the further that people can go and will go seems to extend. So with this now, if I could give directly to a specific person I want to be president, not just a specific party, if I could put in essentially as much as I want, what kind of power and influence does this give me as a wealthier person? We talked about governments early on in this show and the different forms of government, and I would highly encourage people to look up oligarchy and understand what that term means and what kind of countries that exist in, and do we want to live in the kind of country that becomes legal, because it just helps the few. Kagan's warning was blunt. The court ushers back in the same opportunities for quid pro quo corruption. Those limits were built to stop. Quid pro quo, this for that. Money for favors, that exact thing that campaign finance laws were designed to prevent. So why is this a big one? Well, let's connect it to where we started. The transport ruling affects a few hundred people, maybe. The birthright ruling held the line, things stay as they were. Important, the status quo affects more. The third one changes the machine itself. It changes who your representatives actually answer to. Because follow the chain. If the real money flows from a handful of wealthy donors into the party, into the candidate spends the time listening to a handful of donors, not to you. You don't have a $500,000 to route through the party. They do. Who are they going to listen to? Whose interests are they going to listen to? The goal will be voted in by the people, but help the few. And we already have an issue in this country with this. If you're in Congress or you're a senator for years, decades as a politician, you make a couple $100,000 a year and all of a sudden you're worth 40, $50 million. We already have this issue. This is already a major problem and it's just going to continue to get worse. I don't have the answer for what I think we should do. Some people believe in socialism, communism. Capitalism seems to be the way to get anybody in the middle class to work their way out of that. But if just the rich can control then the politicians, who then write the laws, eventually you have yourself a circle of destruction that attacks the middle class and below. And we've seen this all throughout history. I encourage you to heed this warning, because if this comes out of control and money has even more control in politics than it already does, we eventually will lose all power as a collective people. And losing power is far easier than gaining it back. This is Jared's view. Like and subscribe. I encourage a conversation. Let's talk.